Hallelujah. I would just like to say that we have two guests in the house, David Altman with B'nai Yosef organization. Amen. David Altman right here. All right. And Pastor David Jones with Ruach. Come on, somebody. And so what I'd like to do is I want Pastor David Jones to introduce our guest. Come on. You know, I just want to give him the honor to introduce our guest. This is a big deal, folks. This is big time. I want to see all of you in my office.
Starting with me. Ladies and gentlemen, your favorite and my favorite tour guide in all the land. Speaking restoration from the heart of the Father, please welcome Hanoch Young.
That is a tough act to follow. Do you know what? Can we have that slide number 2, please? Okay, so this is where we're picking up. Where do things stand? Kind of a recap. Now, previously, I had spoken here about a number of things that went wrong on October 7th. And we have to start there to appreciate the scope of everything else that I'm going to share over the next 7 hours and 38 minutes. And do you know what's great? The timer hasn't even started yet. So this is bonus time that I accrued on Shabbat. I think it's wonderful. Oh, now it started. I shouldn't have said anything. I do not know when to be quiet. Okay, wow. In all seriousness, literally, everything that the IDF and the Shabak, the Shin Bet, our intelligence services, and everything that our government did on and before October 7th was the absolute worst that we could have possibly done. In fact, the contrast between what has happened subsequently, particularly with Hezbollah and Iran, it's shocking to think that we're the same group of people. Most of the military leadership, the military intelligence leadership, has thankfully resigned. Our political leadership insists that they have no blame and bear no responsibility. But we're not going to ruin the evening by focusing upon them. Or at least maybe not for about another 20 minutes or so. We'll kind of circle back. The big danger on October 7th, though, was Hezbollah. The fear that Hezbollah was going to enter the war. Hezbollah was infinitely more powerful than Hamas, and Hamas actually followed the playbook of Hezbollah. Hezbollah, much larger, much better funded by Iran, and had accumulated an arsenal of close to 150,000 missiles. The initial projections that our intelligence services did in general about a war against Hezbollah indicated that we would have casualties, we'd have fatalities, chas v'shalom, God forbid, of over 4,000. That our oil refinery in Haifa, our water stations, our infrastructure would be all exposed. Now, what's been going on with Hamas in Gaza is what I call the Israeli version of the hokey pokey. We would take over an area, clear it of terrorists, and 2 days later we'd leave. This is why this war has gone on for close to 2 years. And what's happening is, what occurs in the world in places like France, the UK, Australia, Canada, emboldens Hamas by saying, well, we're going to declare a Palestinian state, never, never land. We're going to declare it. Hamas is saying, we just need to keep holding on. They need to keep holding on. That's their strategy. And no one around the world seems cognizant of the fact that they are empowering Hamas to continue to starve and torture and kill our hostages. The fact that no one around the world talks about our hostages. It's not an issue. Okay, we're going to stick to the military first. I'm sorry. Isn't it great that I don't drink coffee? I think it's a near miracle. Okay, so let's leave Hamas for a second because we don't know to this point exactly how many of Hamas's terrorists we've killed. We've certainly taken out their leadership all around. Even in Iran, we took out the leadership of Hamas. I am sure it is due to American pressure that we have not gone to Doha, where the leadership of Hamas, with their billions. And that's the other thing don't you realize that the top 3 guys in Hamas are worth somewhere between $3 and $4 billion each? Where did they earn that kind of money? You think they were selling Mary Kay cosmetics? That's an inside joke to all of you out there in TV land. You have to play to the local audience. Y'all should show up next time. The gauntlet has been thrown down. Okay. Hezbollah. Hezbollah began firing missiles upon us as of October the 8th. Essentially, northern Israel was evacuated. Now, there was a major debate within our government and military leadership of whether the IDF should concentrate on Hezbollah first and Hamas second. Now, understand how close we came to having our country cut in thirds. Had Hamas continued to go on, and again, we were totally unprepared and didn't have adequate contingency plans, they would have cut off the bottom third of the country. The expectation was that Hamas terrorists in Yehuda, in Judea, would have joined them approximately around Beersheba, our 4th largest city, which would have been disastrous. And at the same time, Hezbollah would have come from the north. So Hezbollah, we kept trading blows back and forth. Israel in the north was evacuated. And there was one horrific strike on a Shabbat afternoon, and they killed 12 Druze children, Israelis. We in Israel were wondering, what the heck are we waiting for? And then one day in the afternoon, we found out. All of a sudden, videos started appearing of guys in a marketplace having their pockets blown apart. Really. By the way, anyone here have a pager? If you could leave it on the outside? Pagers. But it wasn't just that we slipped explosives into the pagers. We created an entire business that sold these pagers to Hezbollah. Amazing. In one fell swoop, close to 4,000 terrorists were maimed or killed. The leadership of Hezbollah was amazing. The very next day, of course, they switched to walkie-talkies, which then also blew up. Hodul Hashem Kitov. God is good, man. It's like zippity-doo-dah, zippity-a. Hassan Nasrallah. And by the way, since he was killed, Baruch Hashem, since he was killed, we will never find out why Hezbollah did not enter the war with Hamas. Recent intelligence findings indicate that they got a 30-minute heads up. We're invading Israel. So that would have been approximately 6 o'clock in the morning on October 7th, 2023. We will never know why Hezbollah flinched. Never know. Many in Israel say it is an absolute nace, a miracle. And by the way, in the midst of all these horrors, we have experienced one miracle after the other. I can tell you from one of my friends, his son was serving in Gaza, and the unit took a break for wherever they were going. So his son, as my friend, is religious. So he said, you know what, I'm going to take this break time and say Tfilat Mincha, the afternoon prayer. So of course, so everyone is hanging out facing in that direction. He needs to pray. What direction do we pray in? Toward Jerusalem. North. They're south. North. So he turns, and all of a sudden he sees a terrorist coming out of a tunnel entrance with an RPG, and he takes him out. Baruch Hashem. What a miracle. What a miracle. And time again, we've experienced this. So, in one fell swoop, we crush much of the leadership of Hezbollah. Now, Nasrallah, like the rat that he was, is all the way subterranean in a bunker. And what was ironic was, we got him when Netanyahu was speaking here, and he was so far underground. Now, we don't have the bunker buster bombs. And even if we had the bunker buster bombs, we don't have the planes that could carry them. We in Israel are pretty clever. So our brilliant minds figured out that if you repeatedly dropped one after the other of munitions, it would hammer its way down. And we killed Nasrallah. A few days later, they appointed his successor. We killed him too. Now, what happened to all those missiles? The terrain of Lebanon is not like Gaza. So they have mountains. By the way, that's, you saw all those pictures. There was a UN position, and like approximately 50 yards below them, there was Hamas, UN. Let me quote Mike Clayton on this. The unwanted nobodies, UN. Okay. So they had missiles within mountains and a sort of retractable roof. Well, we had planes in the sky, probably F-35s with stealth capacity. And when they opened up, boom, we took out many of their missiles. Now, it doesn't mean that Hezbollah doesn't have more missiles. But we really, really defanged them. Amazing. And of course, American intervention, and the way things stand now is that the government of Lebanon has pledged that they will disarm Hezbollah. Here's a prediction. Ain't gonna happen. It didn't happen in 2004. The UN didn't do anything. I don't know what the American governmental pressure is going to be, but I don't see that happening. So look for Lebanon round 2 coming to a theater near you. An amazing thing happened, though. Hezbollah was the power behind the Assad regime in Syria. He used the fighters of Hezbollah to prop up his regime, even after killing 450,000 of his own citizens. Well, guess what? When he couldn't call on Hezbollah, he fled to Russia. Syria falls. And by the way, much of the weaponry that got into Lebanon came via Syria. So all of a sudden that stopped. Astounding what was going on, and a lot of this was not picked up in the U.S. media. I mean, I see by your faces, like some of you are surprised, like, I didn't know that. So incredible things are going on. Now, what's the status of Syria? It's a big question mark. Big question mark right now, because the guy that runs Syria, his name is Julani. Julani, until December, had a $12 million bounty on his head from the American government because he was a leader in ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Now, he wears a suit, by the way. Now he wears a suit. You know, the fatigues, like Osama bin Laden, went out. And he got the blessing from President Trump. You know, he's a good guy. He's not a good guy. He's another jihadist. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. This is serious. He's the guy that slaughtered the Alawites, a minority, the Druze, and the Christians of Syria. This is going to be a big problem. You also have the Kurds. Syria, as a united modern nation, has no reason to exist as it is. But Turkey, Israel's next up-and-coming threat, mark my words, is a big supporter of a united Syria because they're trying to quash the Kurds. By the way, there are more than 30 million Kurds in the world throughout the Middle East, largely Sunni Muslims, but there are also Jewish Kurds and Kurds of other faiths. It's amazing. It's in a very, very complex pattern. In the middle of that, the Iraqi militia began firing missiles at us in Israel. We bombed them a number of times, and then essentially their response was the famous quote of Roberto Duran, "No mas." They pulled out of it. Now, still to this day, as recently as yesterday, we get ballistic missiles from Yemen. We've already turned Yemen, much of it, into a parking lot. However, they still have plenty of Iranian missiles. And they are a total fanatical country. You'll remember, by the way, a few months back, President Trump declared a ceasefire. America was no longer going to attack Yemen. By the way, if one of you can explain to me later why, you know, because American shipping is still in danger. That's their big, because here, Yemen, no, yep, Yemen. See, I've got the chuppah on the way. It's such a beautiful chuppah, I think we're going to leave it here. It's absolutely gorgeous. Evidently more people, no, let's go back to the other slide, please. Please, thank you. In fact, this is what I heard, that the chuppah is being left here to encourage couples to advance the date of their weddings. You know, there are some, personal friends of mine here in the congregation that I would call out by name, but I don't want to do that. If you ask me later, I'll tell you their names, but that's okay. We're not going to mention it now. Okay, Iran. Let's speak about Iran. There are some people who think that Iran is merely a paper tiger, that they weren't nearly as powerful as they were thought to be. But again, I remind you, now let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. That their strategy was based upon a powerful Hezbollah, Syria, Hamas, Yemen, and Iraq, as well as all the terrorists that they're trying to infiltrate through Yehuda v'Shamron, Judea and Samaria. That was their defensive strategy. Well, we pulled their pants down. But what Israel did in Iran was beyond belief. Now, It was approximately 3 o'clock one morning in Israel, and all of our sirens went off because we had launched direct attacks on Iran. Now, on our phones, we have all these apps, but we have one from the Home Front Command that gives us a 5-minute warning of an incoming missile from Yemen. It went off yesterday morning, and it makes a weird noise. So there I am in crunch, working out, and actually I was in the locker room for a minute, and my phone is going, making weird noise, people looking at me. And I explained, I'm an Israeli. That indicates that in Israel, in my city of Modi'in, you've got 5 minutes to get to shelter. This is an early warning that we citizens get. So of course they were all like, but this is Brandon. Go Brandon, yeah. We had Special Forces troops on the ground in Iran assembling drones in Iran. And we were tracking where their nuclear scientists and where their generals were. And simultaneously, we took them out. It was amazing. Within 2 days, we gained air superiority over Iran, which is no small feat considering how far we are from their country. But their ballistic missiles were no joke. And after a few days, our whole air defense system, the Iron Dome, etc., is thought to be approximately 90 to 95% effective. They were getting through 16%. The missiles are very fast. I mean, these are ballistic missiles. These aren't the old cruise missiles of Saddam Hussein. And what's interesting is we don't have full news reports of where missiles hit. But through our informal network, we know. When people in Tel Aviv who I know say the entire block behind where I live has been flattened. And this is among the biggest miracles that we experienced. With all of those ballistic missiles, it's still a tragedy, but we lost 31 people. Now, many people, close to 13,000, lost their homes. But Baruch Hashem, it wasn't worse than that. What I don't understand, though, is why the war stopped when it did with Iran. We're in our shelters, and 3 hours later, President Trump has a press conference and he says, ceasefire, it's over. This is not over. This is not over. This is merely chapter 1. Now, we've been fighting Iran in the shadows for 20 years. So this is merely chapter 1. So where things stand now? Well, we keep talking about a massive push into Gaza City. Understand something. Our humanity, our concern for our hostages has held us back. That, of course, in the Biden administration. You guys remember that? Biden, yeah. It's kind of amazing how things have changed. But the basic issue that we're dealing with is what's going to happen now in Gaza. Netanyahu, in his speech about pushing into Gaza City, used the term in Hebrew, kibush. Kibush means conquer. That's not the way it came out in English, and it's not the way he meant it. We are not taking over Gaza. We are not resettling Gaza. We are not building Jewish communities in Gaza. Okay? I'm telling you that flat out. Don't infer from my remarks that I wouldn't be in favor of those things. But it's not going to happen. And by the way, that leads us into one of the big things that people kept saying. Raise their hand. Yes? I heard that there was an order given for Israel to stand down on October 7th and let this happen. Now understand something. I am an Israeli now for almost 16 years, and I have already voted in 9 national elections. We love our democracy. And never in those 9 times have I ever voted for the Likud party that Netanyahu is the chairman of. I am far to the right of where he is. I don't trust him. He's an indecisive leader, and I know you don't agree with me. I know you don't agree with me. And I'm astounded that you don't. Because we lived through this. This is why you hear there will be no deals with Hamas without the release of all the hostages. And 2 days later, it's like, well, yeah, we're up for a partial deal, whatever. It's this waffling back and forth. Anyway, so this crazy pants idea is that Netanyahu made the decision to allow that first horrific strike, killing almost 1,300 Israelis, most of them civilians, in the most horrific manner. 251 Israelis and foreign workers taken hostage. That Netanyahu had some kind of nefarious plan that this would be the excuse to ethnically cleanse Gaza and resettle it with Jewish communities. And I got to tell you, a few minutes ago I quoted something Mike Clayton has said about the UN, and I'll quote something else that Mike has shared with me. The concept that the spirit of slap came upon me, and I wanted to wade into the audience and start slapping people silly. Because even though as a politician I would never vote for him, to think that he would be such a monster to allow this to happen is inconceivable, number one. Number two, we're not ethnically cleansing Gaza. There are still 2 million Gazans there. We're not ethnically cleansing Gaza. Same population is higher today than it was on October 7th. And we're not taking it over. So we're in for some interesting times in the next number of weeks to see exactly what happens. Meanwhile, we hear statements from the American government that lead us to believe that the American government fully supports what we're doing. But we all know that that changes on a dime. And if you don't believe me, you can look at the news and see the face of Zelensky from Ukraine as he's being told that they need to make concessions to the Russians. By the way, that's the other thing here. You would swear, if you go throughout America, that the only crisis in the world is happening in Gaza. There are no other wars anywhere else in the world. It's really amazing. Okay, so that's a quick little, we're going to get to questions in a few moments, but I want to bring up the 2 questions that I've gotten most frequently so far on this trip. And I've never before traveled and spoken this much. This is my 19th live engagement. 19. I mean, typically my trips are like, I go to 12 congregations. This is 19. As well as I've already done 2 Zoom lectures, and I've got a third one coming up next week when I'm in New York. I think it's next week. I hope it's not Wednesday night. I'll look in the daily planner again. So the first thing, again, I will remind you, in January, February, the most common thing people said to me was, I heard that President Trump is going to be building the third temple for you. I often think of things through old song lyrics. One pill makes you larger and one pill makes you small. And this is, so what I'm getting now is, this came up a number of times, was I heard that the entire temple, all the parts for it are already built and they're just in storage. Now understand something. The temple was never meant to be a prefab. Okay? It doesn't work that way. It's not going to be that way. Also, do you think we have these massive Costco, size places in Israel that are just storing all the temple stuff? And why is it that you never heard about this before? This would be pretty big news. And also, I don't understand why people don't turn to me. I get the weirdest emails and messages and WhatsApps from people. Say, Hanoch, I heard, is there any truth to this? So that's it. The other thing is, everyone wants to know about the para aduma, the red heifer. What's going on? Okay, I heard it was disqualified. No, it wasn't disqualified because it never qualified. Okay? That's number one. Number two, I said, what is it? I've learned, Pastor Nick is trying to get me to be calmer and more mature and listen to people. I said, he's trying. Okay? He's trying. Come on now. So I said to people, what is it that you expect that the ashes of the para aduma, the red heifer, will do? It's kind of, Pastor Nick is listening to a speaker that I used to greatly admire when I was working in the American business world, Stephen Covey. And really, really tremendous insights. So I'm trying to practice active listening. So what is it that you think is going to happen? And they're like, well, I heard it, it heals the blind. No. The ashes of the para aduma, which by the way it's not a sacrifice. We can only do korbanot, which is not korban is not a sacrifice. It's an offering. A big misunderstanding of what the Jewish people have done with korbanot, with offerings. But the ashes are only to purify Jews who suffer from tum'ah, ritual impurity, from being in contact with a dead person, to enter the temple. But understand something. Because we don't have a red heifer is not the reason we don't have a temple today. We don't have a temple today because there aren't enough crazy Jews that go up and are willing to pray and reassert our rights on the Temple Mount. That's why. So, that's the other reason I've got to get back home, because, say you want a revolution. Yeah. I'm in a musical mood tonight. I should be careful. There are people that are listening that are saying, he really should not attempt to sing. Really. That is not what he does. The war has caused a horrific strain in Israel. We do not have enough men and women to go into the reserves. The Haredi population, the ultra-Orthodox population, still insists on being totally exempt from any role and obligation and responsibility to the defense of our country. I wish they were all foreign born so we could deport them. Very frank. It is inexcusable. It is not the Torah way. And that's another thing. People say, I heard the ultra-Orthodox are being drafted. Ain't happening. Again, because our prime minister wants them in his coalition and he appeases them. Okay? That's not a negative comment. That's simply fact. Simply fact. It's politics. The strain on our families of people being called up. People who are who are losing business, who are in their own businesses. They're suffering tremendously. And also, how is it that you can, I don't know, let's say you're opening up a Rita's frozen custard stand somewhere. How are you going to stay focused on building your business and advertising if every couple of months you're in Gaza or you're in Lebanon or in the case of someone I'm very close to, in Syria? It's not a switch that you can easily switch on or off. So when people say, I heard, okay, let me step back for a minute and rephrase this. It made me crazy to see people in Israel even talk about, yes, we're moving on towards greater Israel. We're taking parts of Syria. We're taking parts of Lebanon. And we're going to take Gaza. It's not happening. Okay, this is not a resettling of Lebanon and Syria. When our security needs are met, assuming they can be or will be, trust me, there won't be Israeli soldiers there. I'm not happy about that, but that's the way things are. We as a society are struggling. Israel is remarkably safe. I know you find that like really shocking. You know, there's no tour group that I guide that goes down to Gaza. In Gaza. Hey, let's see if we can dodge some bullets. Yeah, this is like paintball on steroids. People are really getting blown up. Let's do it. No. And I'm hopeful with the return of the foreign airlines. We already have United, Air France, Lufthansa, Swissair, etc. coming back, that people will come. And you know what? We're either in this together or we're not. For years, for 31 years, I've heard people say to me, I'm not Jewish, but I think I'm part of Israel. Well, it's put up or shut up time. This is really, if you can't stand with Israel and the Jewish people, now, I don't know if or when you ever will. And you know what? We're not going to hang around waiting for y'all. Not going to happen. And then when I hear of Messianic congregations that have actually split because people thought that the pastor was too pro-Israel. Man, it's moments like that that I reach behind me, and then I remember, unfortunately, that my police force will not issue me a gun permit for moments like that. It's crazy. Okay. Let's take some time for questions, possibly even some answers. Because, by the way, that's always, we have, and this time, this 15 minutes is for questions and answers. We may have answers, we may not, but we'll have questions. You guys at home are like eating popcorn or what while I'm talking? Yeah? I know who you are. Hi.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I'm going to read it out because it was I'm going to read it out to you, and then it's okay if I have you answer. So I wrote it down.
Okay.
So it does have to do. Okay, I'm just going to read it. So
Please.
I wanted to know. Okay, so the real reason I know also a lot of Jewish people and a lot of Israelites, and the main thing that upsets me the most is all the protests that are going on in Israel right now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am having trouble following you. Can we get right to the question, please?
Sure. Okay. Absolutely. okay, what is the real reason the majority of Israelites still think that you can negotiate with terrorists, with Hamas? They want to
Okay.
negotiate for the release of the hostages. But personally, the IDF, like I said, should just take them by force, go and get the hostages militarily was on the
Okay.
table.
I got it.
Okay.
First of all, terminology. Israelis, not Israelites. Israelites is a biblical term, one thing. Why don't we just go in and get the hostages? Because the terrorists standing guard are under orders. If we approach, they kill them on the spot. And they've done it already. So it's not merely as simple as going in and getting them. Trust me in this. Our government is doing as much as they possibly can to get them. I think this move into Gaza City should have happened a year and a half ago. What we've been, kind of dancing around is beyond me. Anyway, next question, please. There's nothing like standing with the lights blinding you. Don't laugh at me. It's difficult. Trust me.
I'll ask a question here for you. I noticed that they had yesterday, I guess it was in Tel Aviv, where they had the big demonstration
Yes.
against the government. What's your take on that? Is that
Okay. If it were a friend or relative of mine that was a hostage, I'd be going crazy. Having said that, the idea of trying to pressure the Israeli government, and again, remember, I don't agree with my government, but they are the duly elected government. To think that you can pressure the government of Israel and get the hostages out is absolute stupidity. It's not our government. And again, if the idea is, well, do you know what? We'll surrender, we'll pull everyone out of Gaza, and just, give them the opportunity to do this again. And they have promised. There'll be many, many more October 7ths. So it's why can't they be more like me? I'm one of those people who walks down the streets, looks around, and says, why can't you all be like me? Anyway, that's a joke, by the way. Not a good one, but a joke. Next question. I wish y'all, in TV land could ask a question. Yeah.
Okay. When I visited Israel, I saw a young man that I think he was Russian or something, but he was a soldier, and he was just sitting, and I said, "Oh, so you're a soldier here?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "But I'm not from here. I'm Russian, this and that." And then I said, I'm going to pray that there will be no war. This is about 10 years ago almost. And
Okay,
he said,
so
he
I'm
got
sorry.
very mad.
Let me understand. So you were in Israel. You spoke to an Israeli soldier who was originally from Russia.
He's not Israeli. He's a foreigner. So the young man, I said
I'm
to
sorry.
him,
Was he I'm a little confused. Was he a soldier in Israel?
a soldier, yes, sir.
Okay. You can't be a soldier in Israel unless you're Israeli. He may have been born in Russia, but he's a citizen.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes, of course. Because if I wanted to go, I was told that I can also go. But I went on a tour, and I said, can I come? Can I come? This is 10 years ago. And they said, yes, you can come, and we can train you, and you can join also. So
Okay.
I don't know.
That is not correct.
No?
We do not have like a foreign legion. You have to be an Israeli citizen to serve in the IDF. Yeah, we do not accept foreign volunteers.
Our tour guide was from Israel. And she said, yes, you can go to Israel.
Okay.
And they can train you.
Okay, and
you
she's
can fight
absolutely
for them.
totally wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, what the guy said.
Otherwise, you probably would know people in Brandon that would have gone and joined the IDF.
And I believe that they have. I believe many people have come from United States over there and have joined.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to stop you. Many people from the United States, let me tell you Aliyah statistics. Jews immigrating to Israel. When I went in 2009, that was considered a peak year for Jews going on Aliyah, ascending to Israel. 3,500. And within 3 to 5 years, 50% of them go back. That's the statistics. Out of a population, America has the largest Jewish community outside of Israel. Okay? It's number 2 in the world. Out of approximately 5 to 6 million people, 3,500 is less than insignificant. So many Jews do not go to Israel. They do not. And the reason for that, I'll kind of preempt the next question. Most Jews in this country are merely Americans who by accident of birth happen to be born to a Jewish woman. Just because someone is Jewish does not mean they have any education, any commitment to Judaism, or have ever been to Israel. 70% of American Jews have never visited Israel a single time. Anyway, next question, please. Oh, we've got a question over here.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm looking on the Jerusalem Post
Okay,
right now. I shouldn't be, but I am.
that's okay.
And
I'd be looking at my phone too if I could.
3/4 of the of the reports on here are talking about the hostage ceasefire deal. Why do you have to do that? You need, and I'm going to express an opinion. I'm like you. I'm extreme far right when it comes to Israel, and you need to get a far right prime minister in there who'll just take everybody out. Just take them out.
Okay, I got to tell you, I wish the world could be that black and white, crystal clear, and simple. However, I do want to point to something that you inferred, that we do not have a far-right prime minister, and we do not. We have a centrist, and he's in the center and he waffles. So yeah, so, you know, we have a parliamentary democracy. We have a coalition-based parliamentary democracy. That means that out of the 120 seats in the Knesset, in order to have a government, you need to have at least 61 joining together. We have never, ever, 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 ever had one party with 61 seats. It's always been a coalition. The Likud party leads the government now. They had 37% of the vote. Another question or two? I think we have time.
I have one question. So I've heard, right here. Sorry.
Oh, hey.
I've heard rumors that in Iran there is a massive drought going on. Do you know if that's true at all, or?
It appears to be. Although I did see our prime minister say, you know, he's holding up like a glass of water, saying, you know, we can, you know, bring technology. They don't want our technology. They want to destroy every Jew in the world. So yeah, they're suffering. And every once in a while you'll hear about, you know, either there's an earthquake in Iran or something blows up. I wouldn't be at all surprised if, you know, I mean, the whole world is hoping that the Iranian people will rise up and get rid of, you know, their jihadist government. Yet another song. If you wish upon a star. We hope so.
All right, Hanoch, I have a question from online.
An online question? How exciting.
It says, how would you recommend we here in the U.S. help Israel during this war?
Okay, fabulous. First of all, I would love to know that every single congregation that cares about Israel grows. Every organization that's involved in caring about Israel grows. I want to see numbers. I want to see strength. There is strength in unity. By the way, unity does not mean the same thing as uniformity. Very important. Our strength comes from our diversity rather than despite it. Which is why, as different as I am, then as we say in Hebrew, aliyal, we're together. We're brothers and sisters. We're united in this. We can go to the very last slide, the one after this, please. Perfect. And let's keep it there. Now, that's one thing. Two is everyone needs to be making plans to go back to Israel. No, let me rephrase that. Everyone needs to be saving for Israel. Let me tell you why I changed that. Because not everyone, whether it's health reasons or familial commitments, has that ability, even with the dollars, to be able to go to Israel. But keep saving. ¿Por qué? Why? Because you can use those funds to seed the next generation to be able to go to Israel. I would like to see scholarships, by the way, partial scholarships. Because something for free is worth what you paid for it. I would like to know that people are saying, you know what, I can't. Friend, I just had this conversation with friends of mine in Colorado who said physically they're not able to go to Israel as they did a few years ago. But they're saving and they're using that money to send their children who are adults. It's a wonderful thing. That's number two. Number three, stay in touch with me. There's no reason that you've got to, live on, rumor and innuendo. Let me be a resource for you. I'll point you in the right directions. Yeah, I know exactly where Lithia Pinecrest is. I do. And by the way, please don't ask me for directions when we're together. I'm a tour guide in Israel, not in Florida, okay? Although I am waiting to be behind the wheel here when there's a demonstration. I really am. Listen, okay, so we're still going. Education is key. Education is key to know exactly what is going on in Israel. And I encourage you, if possible, to make connections with local Jewish communities. I say that with caution, and I'll tell you why. First of all, Jewish communities outside of Israel are essentially either Orthodox communities or they're not. You're going to walk over and say, "Hi, I'm Susie from Messianic Congregation XYZ." We've already gotten that pitch. And there's a concern. It's only been approximately the last 30 years where we've actually begun talking to each other. We've spoken about each other. We've said nasty things about each other. We've talked at each other. But it's only the last 3 decades that we're actually talking with each other. And again, I think the most basic concept in the world is mutual respect. But it doesn't work for most people because their idea of mutual is it's all about me, whoever they are. Mutual respect. I'm not interested at all in changing you, but guess what? For us really to work together, you've got to give up trying to change me. Most people are just not willing to do that. And you know what? This is the defining period in modern history right now. Right now. We will see, when the dust settles, we will see what side of the line everybody in the world is on. Either you're with Hashem, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or you're on the other side. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions.
Yes, sir.
We're into overtime.
If you don't mind, one more question.
Sure, I don't mind. I'm not leaving till tomorrow morning.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your time with us.
My pleasure.
My question is, briefly earlier, you very briefly mentioned Turkey. I was wondering if you could share more of your thoughts
Sure.
on that.
Okay, wow. And now, oh no. Who's back there? Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, Turkey broke diplomatic relations and trade relations with Israel. Turkey was one of Israel's closest trade partners. Actually, we used to train with their military 2 decades ago. Erdogan, however you want to pronounce it, the dictator that runs that country, hates us with a passion. And he is positioning Turkey to be the next Iran. It's particularly dangerous because they are, A, supplied with American weapons, including F-16s. And they're negotiating for stealth jets from the Chinese. As we say in Hebrew, no bueno. They're also a NATO country. America has had this weird up-down relationship with Turkey. I personally see Turkey and Egypt, by the way, don't worry, I'm not giving you my whole talk from January, February coming up, but Egypt is also a real danger to us, also with American F-16s. And by the way, the Chinese fighters that they're getting are the equivalent of the F-35s, some without stealth capacity, but it's a real danger for us. So here it is, people were slapping us on, ourselves on the back in Israel. We're a regional military power. Yeah, that lasted about 48 hours. We are incredibly powerful. But, I was reading an article just today that we're short about 10 to 12,000 men for the IDF coming in this year. And we already have an incredible birth rate, but we've given a free pass to close to 17% of our society. My city, Modi'in, leads Israel in the percent enlistment in the IDF. We have the highest percentage in my city. There's a lot of reasons for that, not the least of which the technical name of Modi'in is Modi'in Maccabim Reut. Maccabim and Reut were 2 little villages, plots of land that were given to demobilized senior officers. So we have sort of the core of our city initially were career military officers. That's number one. Number two, we don't have a Haredi population in Modi'in, in my city, because there is a nearby city about 3 kilometers away called Modi'in Elite. By the way, that's not E-L-I-T-E, but that means Upper Modi'in, which is a total Haredi city. Yeah, we have those in Israel. Anyway, so that's Modi'in. Come visit me in Modi'in. It's a fun time. We have one more question? Okay, wait, we have 2 more questions. Okay, he's got the microphone, so we have to wait for him. I apologize. David.
Hey, okay. So you were talking about all of the rumors and things that get talked about with the red heifer and the mount.
Yes.
And we have had a huge transition from 1967 when they gave away what they had just reclaimed. I've heard you talk about this. And to Yehuda Glick being assassinated for merely talking about,
attempted assassination.
Attempted
Baruch Hashem.
assassination. But now we have, just on the 9th of Av, we have a speech that was given. How can we legitimately help without spreading rumors, do something productive towards the awareness on the Temple Mount?
Okay, well, first of all, y'all can follow, and I know here, thanks to Pastor Nick, you guys put up my little, minute on the Mount, so I'm very grateful to that. All of my buddies from High on the Har with those really cool patches and shirts, you can even get them in Arabic now. Again, remember, I'm all about the subtlety. That's the important thing for you to remember, all about the subtlety. So I'd encourage you to follow us online. And certainly I will do everything that I can to keep putting out information and to try to correct misconceptions. I mean, there are people who are basically earning a living right now talking about the red heifer. I think that's a little less than genuine. Okay, but we'll talk more about that, David. Can someone give my friend over here oh, you already have the microphone. Wow, you control the horizontal and the vertical.
Do you think part of the miracle of Hezbollah not invading or attacking Israel was because of American warship off the coast of Lebanon?
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
Okay.
One warship, considering the role of, again, Hezbollah, for 20 years, has been getting tens of billions of dollars of Iranian missiles. They could care less about an American warship or an American fleet.
Okay.
No.
One more. Have you
2 for the price of 1 tonight.
Have you noticed a return in the people to the Torah?
Have I noticed a return?
And wearing blue tassels.
Wearing blue tassels. That, by the way, what you refer to as blue tassels are tzitzit.
Yes, tzitzit.
What you may hear typically pronounced in most Messianic congregations is zeitzit. Yeah, I learned a whole different dialect of English. No one spoke like that in the Bronx, trust me. There has been a return towards the Torah, but again, that's widely misunderstood in America. And I'll give you an example. There was a picture recently of Netanyahu in a talit with tefillin on. And people say, oh, he's religious. He's not religious. He's not religious. But yeah, they're obvious, you know, and it's not surprising in times of war. If you listen to some of the things that have been reported from our released hostages, the little things that they did, even singing the song Shalom Aleichem, which is not the, you know, Haveinu Shalom, it's not what y'all know. It's what we sing Friday night at our Shabbat table. And they sang it in Arabic. So the terrorists that were guarding them wouldn't object to it. So there were many, many things. So has there been a return to Torah? Yeah. Yeah. Widespread? Hard to say. You know, and again, it's not unusual in times of war for people to kind of go, you know, to one extreme or another. I think that's, oh, we have one more question and then that's it. Got to go home.
So I just came from Chicago about 5 days ago, and in the train, the Blue Line train, there was this Jewish man, an elder, and he had a button that said, Jewish or Jew pro-Palestinian security. Is that something you're familiar with? Is he undercover? What was that?
And he's lucky he was not on the train with me. I mean, really, you know, to see a self-hating Jew, I would have stomped his teeth. Sorry, guys. You're really upset. Anyway, I want to thank you all, particularly those, you know, at home with the ice cream and the popcorn. Thank you for sharing it with me. Thank you to Pastor Nick. Thank you to Beit Tehila. Thank you to all my friends, David and David, for coming. I really appreciate you guys. I love you with all my heart. And, oh, you're not pointing towards me. Okay. Toda rabah. See you guys all soon, I hope.